Hey guys, I'm the Gamrycat, and welcome back to another Terraria video. In this one, I was going to, I don't know if submit is the right word, but I was going to talk about something that I was interested in adding. And that would be a use for the ash block, because if I go on the wiki right now, ash block Terraria, I bet it only makes iridescent blocks. Yeah, it only makes iridescent blocks. And that's fine. Iridescent blocks are pretty cool, but I think we could add more cool shit to this item. And I can back up my point with this simple Google search. Volcanic soil. Ash is good for soil. I don't know, I can't speak English very well apparently, but my point still stands that we could have a way to fertilize soil in Terraria. I think that would be pretty neat. And wait, okay, that was weird. I think if you get some ash blocks, you should be able to craft one ash block with a clay block and get a fertile clay block, or clay block. If you combine a clay pot with an ash block, then you should be able to make fertile clay pots, or any of the I don't remember what they're called, but the Dryad sells special pots for each of the herbs in the game. You should be able to create like combine those with ash blocks as well and form fertile versions of those too. That would be pretty awesome. And the fertile blocks grow twice as fast as regular blocks. And we could even add manure into the game if we wanted to follow that route, but I don't know if that kind of fertilizer would work. We could go the same route as Minecraft and like add bones to the game. Well, they're in the game. They're just from the dungeon, which I guess that would add a new purpose for bones, which would be nice. But I think skeletons in caves should maybe drop them as well, or like we should rework how the bones work. And it's like we get regular bones from skeletons in caves, and only one per skeleton, and it's like the throwing damage is pretty bad. It's only like 5. And then there's like angry bones, or like, I know that's literally the name of the enemy, but I don't know if we have a name for the bones that we could possibly find in the dungeon that are different, but it's like some other form of bone, like hard bone or tormented bone, or some other kind of bone that we could get from dungeon skeletons that does like 10 damage or like 12 or something. And both of those could be crafted into like bone meal. We could do that. And if I doubt Minecraft have bone meal patented, but if they did, then we could just go with the manure route and add. I don't really know what the hell would come from manure though if we went the don't starve route and had manure, because we sure as hell ain't adding beefalo to Terraria. Like, we can't add cows, pigs, goats. We can't add any of that shit, which when I think about it, I wonder why. All of those animals would be awesome, and they could give you food, which would give you access to the well-fed buff earlier into the game. Yeah, they could just be like critters, but less common, I suppose. I guess it seems like Terraria's world would be maybe too small for animals like that, but at the same time, it'd still be cool to run into them. But there's another part of me that's just thinking in my head, like, it'd be so out of place to see a cow in Terraria. It'd be so weird. But at the very least, if you don't want to go with manure or bone meal, I'd at least like ash blocks to have some kind of purpose, because ash is good for soil. Even like wood ash, if you melted down wood, would just increase the pH in soil. So there's situations where that is good for the plant as well. So you can make like charcoal ash. You can make charcoal, which then would be like a worse version of torches. Maybe it's like not as bright. You could make like charcoal torches that are worse, or you could take that coal or that charcoal and grind it into dust and then combine it with a pot, and then you have a pretty good clay pot, but not the best. The best would be reserved for the ash blocks, like legitimate ash blocks you find in hell to reward you for progressing to that point. I think that would be pretty awesome if you could combine ash blocks with clay pots, or the pink vases, or anything, it'd be cool, in my opinion. There might even be some room to rework the entire, like, farming part of Terraria. Like, it doesn't really make sense to me that you have a clay pot and you don't even put dirt in it. You don't combine it with a dirt block or anything. It's just an empty clay pot, and you put a seed in an empty pot, and it just grows in 2 days. And it literally just sits there for all eternity, and you don't have to water it or anything. It's just an empty pot with a seed in it. Oh, that's perfectly fine. That's how you farm. I mean, there's no reason to change this, I think, because it's already a nice, it works. Who cares if it makes sense? Like, there's games that make sense and it ruins the experience. But I'm thinking it would be maybe a little interesting and not weird if we could at least combine blocks with clay pots, and blocks combined would make like different varying usefulness clay pots. Like a dirt block with a clay pot is like standard, and it takes the usual 20 minutes to 5 hours to grow. Or if you combine it with mud, maybe it's like, oh, it's a little wetter, so maybe it's 5% faster or something. You combine it with sand, and it's like, oh, this is bad. This doesn't have much nutrients in the soil or the substrate, so it's like, oh, this is 10% worse. It's like each block has a different efficiency, and that'd be a new, like a fun thing to try to learn. And if you really wanted to go crazy, balls to the wall, then you could make it so that you don't need to add blocks to it, but maybe add that as well. But if you don't want to, you could just have clay pots require rain or being watered to grow. And I think that this would maybe be annoying. So I wouldn't hate it as much if it took 7 days to a month for it to dry out. Like, make it take extremely long for the pot to dry out, and then I wouldn't be as annoyed by it. But I think it would make sense to not have a pot to just infinitely flourish, like a daybloom to infinitely flourish in a pot with no water or soil. So maybe add like combining clay pots with dirt, or clay pots with literally anything. I keep saying plots instead of pots. I'm here for the plot. Yes, but I think at the very least it makes sense to add substrate to your pots, and the other 50% of me wants to add some form of watering mechanic, which if you don't water it, it's fine. Like, here's how I would add it. I don't want in 7 days, if you don't water your plant, it just dies. That's what I think that would be annoying. I mean, I don't want complete realism. I just want it to make some sense. I don't want it to be ridiculous like how it is currently on live, where it's just you put a random seed in an empty pot and don't water it, and it just grows in 20 minutes. As if you just put it in Miracle Growth or something. Just pure Miracle Growth. It's just 20 minutes, it's bam, there, plant, good. But I think that I would like, so how I want it to be added is, so you combine a clay pot with a dirt block and you water it, or it rains, and then for 7 days it's fine. It's growing really fast, even faster than live. Maybe it's twice as fast if you water it. But if 7 days have passed, then that plant starts to wither slightly. It's still fine, but it doesn't give as many seeds. Like Daybloom there's a chance of 2 or 3 seeds whenever you harvest it, or if you use the Staff for Regrowth, you get multiple. You can get up to like 4 or 5, I think. Pretty sure. And then, so if it withers and it does not grow or give as many seeds back if it's withered. And then in 30 Terraria days, it's just dead. So I think that's completely fair, but some people are probably thinking, like, if it's taking 30 Terraria days for this mechanic to happen, who is this affecting? Why does this matter? And why does this need to be added? I think it would add a nice, like, new mechanic. I'd like to add something on the level of fishing to Terraria's herbs and clay pots and jars and pink vases and whatever. I'd like to add something on the level of fishing to that, where maybe you can get new rewards from plants if you keep them really healthy. Like, you get more Daybloom if you keep it really healthy. Like, you can get like up to 4 or 5 of them without the Staff of Regrowth, and then with maybe like 10. Maybe you could just get a ridiculous reward for keeping this plant healthy or something. Or maybe it's just like there's a new sprite that's really exciting where it gets really tall and huge, and maybe you break it and then it's just like it turns into a sunflower like sized staff where you can just beat somebody with a Daybloom. That'd be funny. It'd give me another weapon to test in my item versus series. But I just think it'd be cool to add like any block in the game you can combine with clay pots, and it's like, oh, it has its own effect on the plant, and then each plant has its own way it reacts to that. That would be cool. And then you could add a rain mechanic so that you can make it grow even faster, and also punish people that don't do anything with plants. Because I think what I'm doing right now doesn't really make sense. How do I have this catacomb hundreds of feet below the earth, just floating in the middle of the space, where I just have Daybloom in pitch darkness in this catacomb, and they're perfectly fine. I've never had to water these in the hundreds of hours that I've played after building this. I just have them, like, in the fucking catacombs under Paris. I just have a plant growing. I never watered it. I came back 20 years later, still there. I think that's a little ridiculous, but who am I to come up with changes? At the very least, I like the block idea, like combine clay pots with, hell, you can even add it with clay, and then maybe it's plus 25% efficiency, and if you add ash, it's twice as fast, plus 100% efficiency. And then maybe you have some other way to do it, like there's new bones you can get from move old bones to skeletons in the caves and nerf them a little bit, and then add new bones to the dungeon skeletons, and then those guys, you can craft the bones from the skeletons in the cavern layer into bone meal, and then that's plus 50% or 100% efficiency, and then the bones from the dungeon are 100%. So it's like there's a scaling where you can get better and better at farming, and I understand, and I admit that I'm not the one to maybe add that or even really be taken seriously brainstorming about it, because I am not really sure how to implement this in a way that would be fun. But I think if you don't want to punish the player, that's fine, but at the very least reward them with more variety of how you make clay pots and herbs work. That's just my opinion. So if you enjoyed the video, let me know in the comments, and I would say subscribe, but don't subscribe if you want this kind of video. Subscribe if you like watching me compare items with spreadsheets and see which one is better. That's the thing I mostly do on the channel. But other than that, that's all I've got for you today. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.